everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your natal Juno in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is a fixed earth sign, so it's very connected to stability and the material plane, material things. Money is material, possessions are material, work is material, that kind of thing. The body even. And Juno is an asteroid which deals with our needs in the realm of relationships. And you can contrast that to Venus, which is a personal planet, and that will be how we love and how we are able to be loved in relationships. And it also could be our attitudes within relationships. Now, how that varies with Juno is, I would say that Juno is what our relationship needs are. So that can get a little bit tricky, because if somebody isn't really doing a lot of deep self-inquiry, the Venus influence may kind of be front and center, especially if it's more on the flashy side. Taurus, being an earth sign, is to me kind of muted. People with prominent Taurus tend to be very, very grounded, but not necessarily flashy, sticking out, maybe beautiful, but there's just a quality that may be a bit subdued. And this can show up also in the realm of relationship needs. So if, for instance, let's say you're somebody who has Venus in Leo, you may think love is like a grand play drama, and you may be very proud in love. You may want to show off your partner. You may want to kind of be like romantic in an over-the-top kind of way. Now, it's important to note that Taurus is ruled by Venus, so it does have that connection to romance or romantic kinds of things as well. It's not to suggest that Taurus is somehow not romantic, but it's just not the same kind of thing. Because Venus and Mars can be planets that are connected to who we are attracted to have a clash with Juno, and let's say I mentioned Venus and Leo. Well, that could square off because Leo squares off to Taurus. If you have Juno and Taurus, that might actually form a square. And that would indicate that the person that is best for you in relationship is not necessarily the person that you're attracted to. This could happen very easily, and it does happen. And this is why I think some people are so confused when they are trying to attract a relationship in their life, because they may pursue exactly the wrong person for them. In this scenario of Juno and Taurus, this is definitely somebody who wants a partner who has a stable income, financial security. And yet, what if you're attracted to someone who is very dashing? Maybe they have Venus in Sagittarius, or even Venus in Pisces, where they're very soulful or poetic, and yet they can't seem to keep a job or save any money. They just are very financially insolvent, if you will. This could pose big problems down the road. And that can be one of the dangers of having Juno and Taurus, because it's so much a part of what you personally need for a relationship. So, transactional relationships are always a possibility. And what you should check with your particular chart is if you have a hard angle from Venus to Pluto. I have a separate video. If I think about it, I'll link it below that talks about transactional relationships and about squares and oppositions, or even sometimes conjunctions between Venus and Pluto, because that can give further explanation of how this could take a certain turn. Or if you have Venus in Capricorn, you're going to automatically be like that. And this just enhances that tendency. Or I could say exacerbates it if it's something that is more challenging. Because sometimes something is, you can't say something is like just completely a positive attribute or a negative one. It really does depend on other circumstances and what is being emphasized. Because this is a fixed sign and an earth sign, the person wants a relationship that is what I would call predictable. They don't want people that do things very erratically, and there's also a need for harmony within relationships. So anything volatile is going to be not seen in a good light, and it's going to be very hard for a person with Juno and Taurus to tolerate such a relationship. So if you have Venus in Aries, for instance, Aries is ruled by Mars, the god of war. You might be somebody who's attracted to relationships. Again, this is like your sense of attraction to someone, or your concept of love may be something where it's a game or it's a challenge, or it's something that you love the thrill of the hunt. You love, if you think about it, if somebody is hunting someone, it means that that person might be quite elusive. And a person who is elusive can also be, we could call them unpredictable, where we can't count on them. They might be here one day and gone the next, in and out. I think it really emphasizes traditional types of relationships, a marriage where both people are like helpmates within that relationship. And in this case, it could even be building up your fortune, and each person, but with today's type of world, if let's say a woman had the idea that she wanted to be a stay-at-home mother, and the man is like, no, I want you to go out and earn money. I have to do it. Why shouldn't you? You're a modern woman. Then there could be a clash, because this could be a very traditional type of relationship that you desire. This could be for men and for women. And what about if somebody has Venus in Aquarius and Juno in Taurus? How does that play out? Or Mars in Aquarius, Juno in Taurus? What would happen? First of all, that's another square situation, a potential square. So that would indicate that's a hard angle. But just in general, it's going to be like being of two minds. And, if you even bring the moon into it in the person's emotional nature, that has to also be taken into consideration. If somebody is an Aquarius and they have Venus in Aquarius, their moon is in Cancer, and they have Juno and Taurus, they might have like a part of themselves that is very strongly and emotionally connected to the idea of a deep relationship and a traditional relationship. And then the other part is very freedom loving and unconventional. So these kinds of mismatched or contradictory aspects and attributes within the natal chart are things that have to be integrated. It doesn't mean that you're erasing one for the other. You know, you're not going to honor Juno without looking at what your love language is, which might be your Venus sign. If your love language is Aquarius and you're attracted to unusual types of setups, you might find that you're still able to have the kind of financially secure partnership, but you are hippies. There are type A hippies or people that are very financially solvent and they still have an alternative lifestyle. It's like one doesn't cancel out the other necessarily. House placement is also important when you're looking at Juno. So see where that is as well. If somebody has Juno and Taurus in the fifth house, you might even have a home-based business, your own business that is connected to, I don't know, handicrafts, something creative. Fifth house can be not only the business that you own, but creativity. And maybe you both are artists, but you're working artists and you work with tangible things. I forgot what they call that. Like, yeah, you could say arts and crafts and things like that. Maybe it's jewelry making and you are using, making out of crystals or whatever, and you're doing it yourselves and that's what cements your relationship. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that resonated. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.